Now, the other thing it's important to know is that your hormones do not just self-sabotage. Their core operation, just like every single cell in the body, is to ensure your survival. So it's not even hormones that are actually the main root cause situation. They're just the first indicators that something isn't right. I always say that your hormones, they throw up the white flag.
Hey, healthcare providers, you're listening to the Burnt Out to Lit Up podcast. Hosted by myself, Erica, and my husband, Michael. We're an OTPT team that understands the healthcare industry's got some serious issues.
Inspired by our own experience with burnout, we've made it our mission and passion to help you navigate your career in healthcare by cultivating wellness, growing both personally and professionally, and advocating for a better workplace.
Whether you are a clinician or manager, new grad or seasoned vet, join us each week as we share interviews, research, stories, and strategies that will give you the tools to go from burnt out to your most lit up self.
Let's dive in. Hey, welcome to the show. It's Mike.
It's Erica.
What's going on?
What's happening, guys?
What's going on, folks?
So it's been a weird time, like the past, I don't know how long, 2 or 3 months, I haven't really meditated. And it's kind of weird because and I wanted to bring it up here because I don't know if anyone has trouble with like staying really consistent with something.
We spent like several months meditating regularly.
Yeah, we did.
It was awesome. Like I felt better somehow. I don't know how, but and then for some reason I just stopped because I don't know why.
Well, we did it together before falling asleep at night. Like we would do it in bed, like when we were about to go to sleep.
You know what it was? We were reading that book, and then we stopped reading the book. That's why we were reading Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, and that was the first time that I had ever even
OG, man, he's an OG.
Even like heard anything about like meditating. I mean, I knew about meditating, but not like
you had seen me do it for like probably 2 years with Headspace, which I still have Headspace, still subscribed. I only like meditate with using the app.
Right.
I get very distracted because when you tell me, oh, just meditate without the app, I have such a hard time doing that because the app kind of structures the flow for me, and if I just freeform meditate, holy moly, man, it'll be like 30 minutes and I'm thinking about like a science test I took in high school, you know, or I'm thinking about
it is really
like my next trip.
How like
I can't do it.
When you start to quiet your mind with meditation,
it gets loud. It gets so loud.
What pops in there? It's like the most random things you haven't thought about in a long time because they're in there. Everything's in there that you've ever thought about or ever happened to you or anything, but it's like it's never it's never on the surface.
Things like, because I think a lot of people think meditating is you have to quiet the mind, you have to think about nothing. And that really isn't true because you're always going to have something in your mind, but it's about observing your thoughts and then being aware of them and then putting them aside very non-judgmentally. Because if it happens one time or 1,000 times, you technically like you really shouldn't get mad or judgmental of yourself. Like, I shouldn't be thinking of anything, like I'm so bad at this. Like it should just be like, oh, I pushed that thought away.
Was it you that taught me that like imagine like you're pushing a thought away with like a feather. Every time it comes into your head, you just like accept it and then you use the feather and you push it away with the feather.
Yeah, I learned that from Headspace. Headspace has a lot of like different videos, like different visualizations like that, and that has helped me because like you're just gently with the little feather, boop,
just bop it away.
Just by thought.
Just give it a boop.
Yep, just a little boop. And but because writing a book has taken over my life.
Yeah.
So during the time at night where I would meditate or where I would read, I'm now writing. And like you only have 24 hours in a day, so like something has to give. So like I exchanged in theory my meditation and reading time and my tarot time because I started to get into tarot cards just for fun, and like I don't judge me because I still don't know what I'm doing. like got into, and Gabby Bernstein's cards were kind of like the gateway into like tarot for me. But I was like, this is really calming, and it was really cool for me because with tarot, I would like ask a question, and I feel like going back to last week's episode of like that little passage we read from the book, I have it here, Journey to the Heart, about like you already know, like sometimes things come to you, and like, or like things, like your heart already knows things. Like I'll ask a question, and then like I'll pull tarot cards, and it's like I already knew the answer. It's just like a way of connecting with myself. I didn't really use it to do anything weird. Maybe how people perceive it to be like connecting with the devil or something. But I was just like, I'm just gonna get to know myself a little bit more. And I still like journal. Like in the mornings I do journal, and even that's been a little bit like hit or miss, because like
that's why you have to do it before you go to bed.
I like to journal in the morning because it sets my intentions for the day.
No, the meditating.
Oh yeah, meditating. So I started doing it before bed, but then like if I get into bed, I don't want to have headphones on to listen to Headspace. And I can't just freeform it. So like I've been writing my book every night, or like almost every night. Which, by the way, if you're just tuning in, I began the journey of becoming an author.
Hooray!
Sorry, I burped a little bit. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, I have embarked on this journey of writing my first book. And as of now, I'm going the self-publishing route. So when my book is done, then I can self-publish it on Amazon. So we have a wait list for that. It's in the bio, or you can visit our website, joyenergytime.com, and then that link is there in the menu. So if you sign up for the book wait list, you can actually, you'll get an email, and then you can enter, because I'm looking to quote people. So if you've experienced burnout and you would like to have the opportunity to be quoted in my book, then definitely sign up for that email list, because I'm trying to gather as many people's experiences and include them into my book. So like embed them throughout the book. So I'm really excited because I've gotten a lot of responses so far, and I can't wait to plug those quotes in. And right now I'm in the, definitely the honeymoon phase of writing a book has ended. And it's not easy at all. And that's why a lot of people might dream of writing a book, or they might dream of traveling the world, or dream of XYZ, but like it's so hard. And, so many people like may be put off by that. And like, I get it. Like it's hard. And there are many days where I don't feel like writing, where I'll just say, I want to write tomorrow. I'm going to write tomorrow. Like, it's fine. I'm just really tired tonight. And then I'll think, like, it's kind of like self-sabotage, because it's just like the idea of a book is so overwhelming. So it's like, if you're achieving anything big in life, you have to break it down into very manageable, tangible steps, and then just kind of take one step at a time. So that's what I try to do when I get a little bit overwhelmed by it. I'm like, okay, I'm just working on this one section in chapter 2, and it's kind of been pushing me forward. I forgot how I got to.
Well, yeah, we went from meditating to
because so like, so
by the way, the guest has nothing to do with either of these things.
Yeah, we're just talking about, what we're going through. And if you have a tough time being consistent, like with working out or with meditating or with doing something that is good for you and that helps you, but you're having a tough time with that, I would like to hear from you, because I think especially my family, they think I'm like my sister and like other people I know think that I never skip a day of the gym, or or I eat my broccoli like every day, or I meditate for an hour every day. I'm like, I'm not like superhuman. I'm very normal. Like I haven't meditated in a while. I do feel mentally, I feel a little bit fuzzy. Like meditation does clear me so much better.
I gotta start doing it.
And it's like, and it's that transition from, you have to do something to actually doing it. That's the work, guys. That's it. That's the work. You got to start doing it. And actually, if you want before we introduce our guest, if you want a little tip, I'm reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. It was the book of the month in December. And, in order to make a habit stick, it has to be like I'm like just getting into like the 4 things because the every night when I would read, now I'm writing, so I'm like reading less, but you know, it's such a great book. He talks about you know, like the 4 steps to solidify a habit and 4 steps to undo bad habits. So like you have to make something very easy. It has to be like no brainer, and it has to just like be in your life, and you have to have all those cues to make it like a favorable habit. And so I hope reading, you know, when reading that book, I hope I can learn more, and also use those lessons and share those lessons with our club members, because we have a wellness club for healthcare professionals, so we always have like ongoing you know, threads, and I like bringing things that I learned to the club. I like interacting with people in the club. Obviously, that's why I made it, to have these more intimate conversations and to get to know people in an intimate level, and be able to provide content and resources and guides that are for people that really are focused on this movement that we're working so hard to create for healthcare.
Yeah.
So I'm just on a roll today. I think I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, I know. Just like, have at it.
I have a lot to say today. So
you want to talk about the guests too? Yeah.
So I just want to make it clear. We got to hold ourselves accountable. Are we gonna start meditating?
I will meditate tonight. Promise.
We got to meditate tonight. But I'll have to have Headspace on, at least for me, because I need that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Headspace.
All right.
I am not sponsored by Headspace, by the way. Maybe one day. Okay, so let's introduce our guest, because our guest is amazing, and we only have amazing guests on the show, so I don't know what to say. But Dr. Mariza is amazing.
Another amazing one.
Another, you know, yet again, we do it again. Dr. Mariza Snyder is a functional practitioner and the author of 7 books. So I'm working on my first one. She's got 7 down, including the national bestseller, The Essential Oils Hormone Solution, focused on balancing hormones with the power of essential oils, and the #1 Amazon bestseller, The Smart Mom's Guide to Essential Oils. For the past 10 years, she has lectured at wellness centers, conferences, and corporations on hormone health, essential oils, nutrition, and detoxification. She has been featured on Dr. Oz, Fox News Health, Oprah Magazine, MindBodyGreen, and many publications. Dr. Mariza is also the host of the Essentially You podcast, designed to empower women to become the CEO of their health. Check out her website, drmariza.com. That's DRMARIZ as in zebra A.com for women's hormone tips, including recipes and remedies. So, stellar person. We get into lots of things. I felt like we could have really gone on for like 2 more hours. We just barely scratched the surface. And I mentioned to her, I know nothing about essential oils. And so she, talks about a lot of different things, but also brings up essential oils. And I just really admire her. I admire her approach and her contributions to everything she's done. Just very professional, like solid, robust. I like using that word. Robust website, Instagram. She's just like total boss woman in her field. So, without further ado, let's introduce Dr. Mariza to the show.
Okay, have fun.
Be sure to like us. Slurds. Share the show with your friends. Subscribe to us. That's the most important thing. Subscribe to us. Share with your friends. Take a screenshot of us and share it on your Instagram stories and tag us so I can get excited that someone is listening to us. And if you feel in your heart to leave us a review on iTunes, we would appreciate that more than anything. So thank you so much.
All right.
Bye. One of our club members, Danielle, wrote in one of the threads we have in the club, "It is so awesome to be a part of this community and to collaborate and empower one another to support optimal wellness and growth within our own practice areas." Woo! go Danielle. I am so excited by how the club is turning out. The Joy Energy Time Club is our subscription-based private club for healthcare professionals. And inside the club, we offer resources to help you with stress management, burnout, enhancing your personal growth and your professional growth practices. Not only will you get these weekly resources, but you are also joining us at Joy Energy Time as a founding member, meaning you'll have early, very important person, VIP access to our upcoming products, events, and all the things we have in store for you. So when you join us, you are joining us in on our mission to live your most lit up existence, and you are joining a community of other healthcare professionals that are in it to grow themselves and to support one another. If you're interested in joining us, visit at joyenergytime.com/club, and you can join there. There are 2 options, either month to month or an annual subscription. Do what works for you. We can't wait to greet you and welcome you inside the club. Hi, Dr. Mariza. Welcome to the show. I am so happy to have you here today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
So I've been fangirling you for a while, and I love your page. I love your brand. I love your story. So why don't you start off by sharing your story, your journey, and what got you to where you are today?
Absolutely. So my story, gosh, a couple different stories, but the story, that was really the defining moment for me was when I was kind of in the midst of hormone chaos. And I remember one day, after many, many years of not really paying a lot of attention to what was going on with my body, just kind of thinking that so much of it was normal or common, and realizing down the road that it wasn't. But I remember I woke up one morning after 7 hours or more sleep. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I could not lift my head up off the pillow. It literally felt like there was this invisible hand pressing me right back down into bed. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, what's going on with me? And it took everything. It took everything that day to muster the energy to get out of bed. I had such horrible chronic exhaustion. And as I was getting into the bathroom to get ready, to brush your teeth, do all the things that you do to get ready in the morning, I remember looking in the mirror and not recognizing the stranger staring back at me. And I thought to myself, I was heading off to go see patients that day. And I remember thinking, like, how are you going to be able to take care of your patients when you can't even take care of yourself? And that was such a defining moment for me, because I knew that I had to figure out what was going on with me. And at the time, I hadn't put together, I hadn't connected the dots in what was going on. I just knew that I was so exhausted that it was just so difficult for me to function. So I went, and a friend of mine referred me off to a hormone specialist, and we ran labs, and I knew that the labs were going to correlate with the way that I felt. And they might as well have said hormone hot mess on top of those lab reports. It was pretty bad. My reproductive stress hormones, metabolic hormones, everything was deregulated. I remember when finally met with the doctor who ran the labs, and she handed me 2 prescriptions. One was for birth control, hormonal birth control, and the other one was for Xanax. And I remember looking at these scripts that she had written on her pad, and I knew, every fiber of my being, every cell of my being knew that these were not viable solutions for me. These were not going to get me well. Mainly because birth control never served me. And we know a lot that birth control only masks symptoms. It doesn't get to the root cause. And it definitely wasn't related necessarily to my chronic fatigue. And then although I'm sure I've had bouts of stress and anxiousness, I definitely did not have anxiety. So the Xanax wasn't going to serve me as well. And I remember feeling so not only alone, but I felt dismissed, and I was devastated, because here I was heading to this doctor who I thought had some kind of solution for me, and I walked out with nothing. And I knew in that moment, I remember sitting in the car right there on the corner next to that doctor's office, just trying to figure out, what am I going to do next? And I knew that I had to dig into the research. I knew that there were people out there, practitioners out there, that were getting to the core root, the root cause of what was going on. And I was going to figure out what to do. So I spent the next couple of years really just investigating, digging into the research, trying out all these different types of lifestyle techniques to figure out how to heal my body. And in that process, I learned so much, not only about what hormones do and how they're interconnected, but also that my story, it wasn't unique. I was one of millions of women who walk in the doctor's offices every single day, even my own office, and with a number of different symptoms that are all pointing to hormonal imbalance. And, so often we didn't have solutions for them. And I knew in that moment that I wanted to be a part of the solution, not the problem. And I have dedicated, well, since then, it's been 10 years to women's hormone health and to helping women get their bodies back and get themselves back on track so that their bodies are working for them again.
Wow. Wow. And I know so many people can relate to that. And for my personal stories, I've been so frustrated with the acne I've had my whole life. And I've seen multiple doctors and PAs for it. And the answer I get, if, like 20, 21, 25, 28 years old, 29 years old, and all the answers were like, it's hormonal, but no expansion of what that is, what that meant, how I can get to the root cause of it. And I was always, I just didn't feel right about that. And so before we move on with that, I want to ask you, what's your healthcare background?
So my healthcare background right now, I've focused on functional medicine out the gate. I was a biochemist before that. So I worked in research for many, many years. And then I remember I was so the reason why I even wanted to go into medical school or become a practitioner is before all of my hormone issues, when I was really young, I had chronic migraines due to a couple of head traumas. And I lived a life of chronic migraine pain from 7 years old until I was 24 years old, give or take. And it really defined so much of my life, defined what I could do after school. I could define whether I could, take tests or not. Like there were so many things I missed out on in life. And I thought to myself, like, I remember being a teenager, still excelling in school, but really not having room for a lot else. And I just didn't want other kids to have to suffer the way that I had suffered all those years. So when I was in college, I was pre-med, I excelled in sciences. And so I started doing a lot of research in college and then moved into a really prestigious lab. And there I met a person, another fellow biochemist who she had told me about this functional doctor who could cure migraines. And I had been told my entire life that I was simply going to have to live with this migraine pain. And as long as I had medications, I was on medications since I was a teenager. As long as I was on medications and I could beat the migraine, then I could function in life. And that was what I believed to be true. That's what I had been told by every doctor I'd ever seen. And so when this woman tells me after 15 years of having chronic migraines that I could get rid of them, I just thought she didn't know what she was talking about. Like, but she was a very reputable scientist. So I trusted her. I knew her work and she had always shown up in her truth. But so maybe there was like this glimmer of hope that said, maybe she knows what she's talking about. And my lab was 45 minutes away from my house. So every day I kind of drove by that office, like on the freeway. So it was on my way home. So one day I decided to finally make that appointment and go to this practitioner. And it was a series of practitioners, acupuncturists, nutritionists, chiropractors, upper cervical specific chiropractors, and body workers. And it was this whole integrative approach, nothing that I'd ever experienced before in my life. And within the course of 3 months, I was migraine free.
Wow.
And I was just so crazy to me. I was like, it was the first, like, if there was ever a moment in my life where I had a paradigm shift, it was right there. Because I was on this very specific path to becoming a medical practitioner where I was just going to be prescribing the same kind of medicine that was being prescribed to me. Like that was the solution. And so I actually ended up steering off. I relinquished my acceptance to UC Davis medical school, and I went off to become an upper cervical specific chiropractor because that's what got rid of my migraines. But then when I got in practice, the women who had migraines in my practice was driven by hormonal issues. So I started to I focused on functional women's hormone health pretty much out the gate.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's such an interesting story that you experienced that paradigm shift right then and there. And there's, very few times where, unfortunately, not now these sorts of changes are happening more and people are exploring this more, but unfortunately so many people don't get to experience that, and they go through that same cycle of the doctor and the medicine without diving deeper into the holistic problem. And so that's so interesting that you decided not to be a part of the problem, and you had your own experience and you want to be a part of the solution. And that's where I believe holistic health, holistic medicine, functional medicine, I think that plays such a huge role in helping people with these symptoms. And I have a friend that has migraines too. And it's so interesting to see that the progression of that and the help. And so, anyway, in terms of, you said you couldn't function like this anymore, and you would go to your office and work with patients and you're like, I know I can't function like this anymore. How long did your symptoms take? How long were your symptoms, like, did you experience them? Because for some people, the development of that can be gradual, or it could be more sudden, and it could become someone's normal. And if someone's always fatigued and that's their normal, sometimes it's hard for them to see a life that's different.
Absolutely. So you're asking me in terms of the hormonal issues that I was experiencing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say it actually started when I was right when I was about to enter college. And here's the thing is again, when we were young, I was younger, this was before I was 24. So I definitely didn't have that paradigm shift. I was having some menstrual irregularities. And at the time, especially during this particular time, I think this was like 1999. So a while back, hormonal birth control was being given out for everything. It solved all the problems. Like if you went to sleep at night and you woke up in the morning, you needed birth control. And so at the time I was having some menstrual issues. I went to the OBGYN, and they sold me on the Depo-Provera shot. And the Depo-Provera shot is like the nasty of nasty hormone birth control, because it's a shot. And what they do is it gives you 3 months of hormones in one shot, and
Wow.
It takes away your period. And I remember I was in school, I was working so hard to get such good grades because I knew I wanted to go to medical school, and I just had to work a little bit harder to really get those accelerated grades. And so one less thing to worry about. My menstrual cycle was irregular. I knew something wasn't right. This shot was going to fix it. And not only was it going to fix it, it was going to take away my periods. And I was like, sign me up.
Yeah.
I had no idea that my menstrual cycle was a 5th vital sign. And I had no idea that it was an indicator of something else going on in the body. So I was on this shot for I would say I was on the shot for a little over a year. And it made me absolutely crazy. All the horrible, horrific symptoms that shot brings to the table, I was experiencing them, from mood swings to weight gain to bloating to, name it. It was just, something wasn't right. I felt emotionally like I wasn't myself anymore. So after a year, I got off of it, and I swore to never be on birth control ever again. I was like, I'm never messing with this stuff. It is nasty. And so, and it's true, I haven't ever since then, since I was 20 years old, give or take. And so after I got off the birth control, it took about 9 months to get my period back. And I'll have to tell you that my whole life, not only was I a people pleaser, but I ran full tilt. And I believe that you could leverage stress as energy. And so I was running pretty quickly throughout most of my life. I mean, I literally, if I could give an example, in high school, in that little 5-minute break we would get to go to classes, like I could run. I would run from little meetings to little meetings because I was all the things in high school. And so if you didn't see me running, something wasn't right. And so that was very much, I was just a Tasmanian devil with lip gloss on everywhere I went. And it started to catch up with me. And so in my mid-20s, I started needing, a Diet Coke and peanut M&Ms, or, a York peppermint patty in the middle of the day. And in the morning, I was waking up a little bit tired. My periods were still irregular enough, and I was dealing with severe mood swings. And I remember asking friends and people around me, even when I was in grad school getting my doctorate, like, it was this normal? And every woman I'd ask was like, oh yeah, that's just how we all feel. Like, it's just going to get worse.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, so I was like, well, I'm just going to keep charging on, because my mom was a single mom, and that's what she had taught me to do. You just keep charging on. It doesn't matter. And so I had this mentality. So I kept charging on and charging on and charging on until I remember a year into practice, getting a practice off the ground and really showing up so big for my patients, staying at the practice at night. I mean, that practice was everything. And going out and meeting people and letting people know about the practice. I mean, it was constant. I was there pretty much 7 days a week. And eventually at one point, my fatigue got so bad that I literally woke up every single day. My cortisol response system, my awakening response system was completely not functioning. And I felt, and I was crawling through my life, and I was only 29, 30 years old. So it was no, it didn't happen overnight by any means, but you just have that moment, that defining moment where you are on the ground, like you've hit ground zero and you're just like, holy moly, I have to do something. And you especially look at 30 years old, you're like, wait, I got a lot of years left to be doing the work that I need to do in the world. And I can't be on the ground at 30 years old.
Yeah. I've heard of stories where people, a very similar sort of like hustle, and especially women. I've heard stories of women that end up in the hospital and they're like, 30 years old or like 25 years old because they just crashed, and they like very similar symptoms to you. And, speaking of that, I want to ask you, in terms of the causes of hormonal imbalances, it seems like it's definitely a lot more common. And like you said, like someone told you, oh, like this is just the way it is. But it seems, well, first of all, I don't know what's, the prevalence of how come is it for women to experience, these hormonal imbalances, and like what there has to be a ton of different causes, but what are some of the main causes?
Oh, yeah. Well, there are 5 major root causes to hormonal imbalance. Because here's the thing. When it comes to your hormones, just a couple of truths around your hormones. One, it's just not hot flashes and PMS symptoms, right? Hormones are controlling everything. They are mediating everything, regulating, they're constantly in communication with every single cell in the body. But here's just a couple of things that your hormones do. They control metabolism, breath and respiratory rate, survival. Like if you're being chased by a tiger, your hormones are the reason why you are going to survive that situation. Cognitive function, emotional well-being, so whether you're feeling calm and grounded, when you go to sleep at night and when you wake up in the morning are controlled by your hormones. Digestion is controlled by your hormones. Body temperature is controlled by your hormones. Hair growth is controlled by hormones. I mean, name it. Every reproduction clearly is controlled by your hormones. We think fertility, right? All of that is being controlled by your hormones. Whether your heart is beating or your cells are breaking things down, metabolizing things, is really being driven by your hormones. And so when we look at the landscape of everything, we recognize that our hormones are literally oftentimes responding to what we're doing in our external environment and also what's going on inside of our body. So they're kind of responding based on what we're doing. So like if I'm racing that way, they have to align and work with me there. If I haven't eaten all day long, best believe ghrelin and leptin are kicking in, right? And so those just to give a sense of things and how that all works. Now, the other thing it's important to know is that your hormones do not just self-sabotage. They don't just wake up one day and say, you know what, I refuse to help her metabolize food anymore. Like that is not their core operation. Their core operation, just like every single cell in the body, is to ensure your survival. So it's not even hormones that are actually the main root cause situation. They're just the first indicators that something isn't right. I always say that your hormones are the ones to they throw up the white flag. And that's such a great example of that is your menstrual cycle. If your menstrual cycle is off or irregular, something isn't right. Those hormones are responding to something in the body as an indicator to tell you something isn't right in the system. And that's just such an important, and what breaks my heart is so often we just normalize these problems as nothing to worry about when they truly are an indicator of something going wrong. So now that I've set the tone for that, I want to talk about the root causes, because again, your hormones, your thyroid doesn't just decide to turn off on its own. It's really a victim of something else. And so the 6 root causes that I like to talk about. The first two, and there's no particular order, but these two are interesting because you've got to kind of do that deeper work. I always tell people you can't green smoothie your way out of chronic stress, because I tried, and I'm drinking a green smoothie right now. And I remember when I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, I could time myself. I could make a green smoothie in 3 minutes or less, and I could grab keys and be in my heels and be running out the door in a car and racing off. And I could drink my green smoothie on a way to, like, hopefully not running late to a meeting in traffic. And so like, even like the point I'm trying to make is that these two root causes require a little bit of, whether it's self-care or it's processing. So number one is perceived stress. We go into a state of perceived stress about 50 times a day, unconsciously. Oftentimes, we don't even know that we're in a state of perceived stress. Wow. I was telling you that my internet was having a moment before I got on here. Yeah. And I was 2 minutes late to this call, and I was having a moment of perceived stress. I panicked a little bit because I'm not usually late to things. And I was like, oh my God, I'm running late to this thing. And my brain just went into like, oh shoot, there's a tiger behind you. Yeah. And I was just having issues with internet. So that's like an example of perceived stress. Next is trauma. Whether it's big trauma or little trauma, those big T's or little T's will come and manifest into disease over time. So something to be really mindful. If we're not managing our trauma, if we're not healing trauma, if we get stuck in those really crazy trauma loops, those are going to manifest into pathology over time. Next, some of the big, more obvious players here, toxins, right? Toxins are a big one. Toxins, environmental toxins, heavy metals, both major players, especially when it comes to the thyroid, especially when it comes to things like brain fog and exhaustion and mitochondrial dysfunction. Then we've got gut dysbiosis or leaky gut syndrome, potentially leading to autoimmune diseases, chronic pain, things like that. We've got nutrient deficiencies, usually because of the stress and because of the toxins. And then the last one is going to be hidden infections. So Lyme, viruses, bacteria, parasites, any of those things. And as you can imagine, as you look at these root causes, some of them can trigger other ones. Like you could just get a toxic overload, and that could trigger a latent virus to activate. So if you look at all these things, it's important to really dig in and figure out what is the root cause that's driving your disease.
Yeah. And a lot of my listeners know that I've talked about my burnout story, and something that you said that like I relate to 1,000% is you can't green smoothie your way out of stress or hormonal imbalances, because that was me. I was cooking quinoa and having avocados and having my smoothies every day, and I was at the gym at 6 a.m. doing high intensity workouts. So I thought I was healthy. And, maybe on paper, my weight was a healthy weight or whatever. But first of all, I was burning out at work. My sympathetic nervous system was always on. Like, I didn't even realize it until like you talked about like that point where like you just hit rock bottom. Like I had a point like that at work. And then like when I took the next day off of work, I could feel my body was holding on to every bit of stress. And I didn't realize it because that's just how I lived. I was just so high strung. And then I just thought, oh, I'm doing all the right things. I'm having quinoa because I'm healthy. But like I wasn't healthy. My body was in overload of stress. And it's interesting because we can think we're doing the right things, but if we're living in a chronic state of stress and our sympathetic nervous system is always turned on, then we can't be healthy.
It's so true. Absolutely. We cannot be healthy. And that's most of what I see all the time. You women in particular, we've taken on so much more. I mean, we've always taken on everything. We've always held space for everybody else, but our priorities are endless. And here's the thing is that there's never going to be a lack of people needing something from you. No, never. If I were to go into my email right now, there are all kinds of people who need things from me. If I were to look at my phone right now, there's all kinds of people who need things from me, right? And so we think about, we're having a dinner party tonight where a lot of things have got to come together for that. And there's all kinds of things that I have an assistant over here that probably needs something from me right now. And so there isn't any lack of that, right? And so it's just a matter of, it's about giving yourself grace and giving yourself permission. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned, because the reason why I kept just tearing through life was I honestly felt so guilty that I wasn't doing enough for other people. But the other reason why I was tearing through life is because I always felt like I needed to show up for everybody. And there was, again, there was no lack of people to show up for. And I didn't think that I deserved to be on the list. I never thought that that was the case. I was never brought up that way. You're at the bottom of that list, even if you make the list at all. And if you start to put yourself on that list and you start to put yourself higher on that list, it is a selfish act. And it was just this belief that I held on to. I remember I used to call my workout hour my selfish hour. And because that's how disempowering my beliefs were. And it was the only hour that I would even give myself any day. And I still felt kind of crappy about it. And I had to shift the way that I thought about my wellness. I had to shift the way I thought about myself. I honestly didn't think I was worthy of healing. And when I was sick, I just blamed myself and shamed myself for getting there. And it would just made the problem worse. And so kind of the biggest realization, and not that green smoothies didn't help. I love green smoothies. I'm clearly drinking one right now. But was really just that deep understanding that I deserved to put myself first. And that if I was going to do the work and really show up for my husband, for my family, for the women that I take care of, all the things that matter to me, I needed to carve out time for me multiple times throughout the day so that I could reset and continue to show up. Plus, as you can imagine, I never, ever wanted to be back in that place again. And I have definitely gotten close. You know, it's something to be said about that being a default mode of mine that I've worked so hard on handling and managing. But it definitely requires a lot of awareness for me.
Yeah, for me too. And I think for me, I recently identified what that state is, and overwork is one of them, but also like suffering and mental anguish. And I think I create problems for myself. But yeah, you're right. People always need things from us, and if we even make it to our list, and it's especially in healthcare, we tend to put everyone first and have a compassion for helping people, clearly, but we lack self-compassion. And that's something that I've noticed, especially in my little type A personality. But I want to talk about lifestyle changes now. And lifestyle changes, a holistic approach to balancing hormones. And I know essential oils plays a huge role in your practice, and I want to talk about that because honestly, personally, I know nothing about it. And I have discovered for myself things that a holistic approach to health is just more, like you said, like the green smoothie, the quinoa, that's healthy, but there's so much more to it. It's connecting with my breath, having belly laughs, turning on my parasympathetic system, getting silent a few times a day, journaling. It's like all the things that go into health and de-stress. And from your perspective, from your practice, what are some approaches for a healthy, holistic lifestyle?
Absolutely. I think that first step is really that self-awareness, recognizing, and giving yourself permission to carve out time for yourself. One of the easiest ways to do that, and I talk so much about this in my book, The Essential Oil Hormone Solution, is bookending your day with you as the priority. Start your day with you as the priority, end your day with you as the priority, because everyone gets all of you throughout most of the day. And so what that looks like in the morning, it can look a lot of different ways. There's so many different wonderful morning rituals to jump into, but I do love to focus on kind of emotional support, like emotional and mindfulness support, getting your mind ready for the day, nourishing your body for the day, and moving your body in some kind of way. So I have ways in which I do that. So in the morning, I get up, I start with a citrus essential oil. I love tangerine. It's like a bubbly energizer bunny, and it helps to boost happy neurotransmitters. So you really get your day started on the right track. Just takes a couple of seconds. So it sits near my bed. I have my happy morning oils, and then my relaxing nighttime oils all next to my bedside. The next thing I do is I have a breath technique that I do for about 2 to 3 minutes to wake up my body and wake up my mind, that I love. And then I kind of shake it all out, kind of just like shake all that energy out so my body's fully present. And I do this in the kitchen. Then I do a big glass, like 16-ounce glass or 20-ounce glass of water, lemon with a little bit of apple cider vinegar to love up on my gut and to love up on my liver so that they're awake and ready to do the work as well. They're feeling really loved. And then I make a matcha latte because I love matcha so much. I
Ooh.
love a matcha green, like matcha. I use unsweetened almond milk, like an organic almond milk, and I make this beautiful matcha latte with cinnamon on it. It is so delicious. And so that really sets the tone for just nourishing and loving me. And that's such a beautiful ritual that I just love to do. I have a journal that sets the tone for what I want to create today. So I'm really clear. So the day doesn't take over me. I own my day. So my day setting, my gratitude setting, and then I either work out or I live on a hill overlooking the ocean. And so I walk up and down that hill, and all around me is nature. It's so beautiful outside in my neighborhood. And so those are usually what I do. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm not going to pretend like I'm not busy. All of us are, and that we get a lot of things done. But I'll tell you what, like having this little morning ritual that takes me about 30 to 45 minutes every morning is everything. And I'm still very, very high impact in terms of what I get done that day. So it doesn't take away from my day. I so often think people think that it's going to take away from their day.
Yeah.
It's going to really set you up for your biggest win. And then in the evening, I have an evening ritual as well. It's 30 to 45 minutes before going to bed, and it's my time. Like, don't touch me, don't mess with me during my evening ritual. I got my favorite book, I've got my oils, I've got, the shades have been drawn. I have a little, like a little face routine that I do at night. Like, it's just everything to just, I relish in my evening routine because it's just for me. And it sets the tone for high quality sleep, because there is definitely low quality sleep as well, so
Yes.
that I can wake up the next day and really shine the way I want to shine in the world. So those are the probably the two most important areas that I think we really should show up, and how we take care of ourselves and do the self-care. And then clearly nourishing your body is such an important piece. I am very, very intentional about what goes into my body, because goodness knows what I put into my body today, I am going to feel tomorrow. Like, I literally will feel great or crappy the next day based on what I ate the day of. So I feel like I get a lot of feedback from my body about what serves and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really good about honoring that.
Oh, awesome. And I'm such a believer in the morning and evening rituals too. And we think that, oh, we're busy, so I'm not going to do it today. But I can feel a huge difference when I do it and when I don't do it, in terms of my mood, in terms of my energy, in terms of my inner peace. And so I love that you refer to it as like bookend, like bookshelf, or no, like bookend.
And yeah.
Yeah, that, because it's true. The morning and the night, that's perfect. And that has changed my life a lot. And for you, like, you can relate to that. And you're right. It doesn't take away from the day. In fact, I would argue, like, it adds so much to the day, and people think it's going to take away from the day, but you're absolutely right. And in terms of essential oils, what is that? Because I mean, like, I know, okay, like, they're oils, but like, what's the medical, or what are the health benefits behind them?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's too many. So what are essential oils? So when you think about, we're talking about integrative medicine, and we're talking about an integrative way to take care of our bodies. When we think about that whole scope, I am in awe of two very important things. I am in awe of women. I will forever be in awe of women, because women are just miraculous superheroes in my life. And then the other thing that I'm really in awe of is nature.
Mm-hmm.
Mother Nature is just absolutely incredible. Like, I think about my green smoothie, and I think about my matcha latte, and I think about my blueberries and my raspberries and my kale and arugula and my herbs that I take every single day, and then the oils that I use every single day. All of this is nature. All of this is plant medicine, right? And so what we're just harnessing is these beautiful chemical constituents from these plants, whether it's rosemary or it's clary sage or it's jasmine or it's rose or it's sandalwood or vetiver or frankincense. And we know when we look at these chemical constituents on a molecular level, that they have powerful biochemical and cellular benefits in the body. And so we're just leveraging that potency And when it comes to using an essential oil, we know that it's oftentimes 50 to 70% more intense or more potent than its herb counterpart. So we get so much more out of it. So let's give an example. Let's use oregano, for example. So I call oregano the obliterator. Oregano, what it does is oregano is a powerful antiviral, antimicrobial, parasitic, anti-candida, like really anti anything environmental threats. And so when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is when the immune system is targeting the thyroid, and the thyroid was slowly dysfunctioning, one of the things that we discovered was that I was dealing with some latent infections. And one of the recommendations from the practitioner I was working on, and also from my own like kind of gut knowing, was to apply oregano on the bottom of the feet to really manage that. So just an example of that, like I love oregano for colds and flus, but I also love oregano for dealing with infections as well. It's just a great oil. Like I cannot tell you how many people have sent me, like let's give an example of like toe fungus. Like I've had so many people send me before and after pictures using oregano oil when nothing else had worked, right? And I am good. I do not need a before and after picture of your toe fungus. I am so good. But like that's just one example of what that particular oil can do. And we know that oils can help with respiratory support, digestive support, liver support, thyroid support, brain fog, fatigue, cravings, menstrual cramps, mood swings, anxiousness, stress, overwhelm. And we can look at all of that chemistry and all of that research and really pinpoint how this plant medicine is working in the body. And so when you look at my book, The Essential Oil Hormone Solution, I have 40 plus pages of cited research. And a lot of it is essential oil research showing the profound benefits they have for very specific issues in the body.
Oh my God. You know, one of my past guests, she's a physical therapist, and she talked about how she was slowly dying. Like she had infections. She was sick for 2 years. Her story, her name is Brenda, and now she does like holistic healing. But basically doctors were flying in to treat her. And then she was at Whole Foods one day and saw a magazine on oregano oil and then got it. And within 2 weeks, her infections cleared.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So when you said oregano oil, I was like, oh my God, that sounds so familiar because she had that experience. So it's like, you know, like it's incredible how much we are starting to know that we don't know in terms of like medicine and healing. And, you know, there's Western medicine and there's, you know, that's been so pivotal in the advances in healthcare and longevity. And there's also like these other holistic practices that we are realizing that we don't know as much about the body as we think we do, because these holistic practices are making, you know, they're such a huge impact. And you, like you said, clearing infections and impacting our bodies in such a positive way. And so with essential oils, are there any, because I see a lot of this online, and like, I don't know in terms of like good brands, bad brands, or just things to watch out for when someone is starting to implement oils in their life. What are some best practices, especially for someone that's never done this before?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important to get a resource, right? Really have, you know, a good resource on hand. And my first essential oil book is called The Smart Mom's Guide to Essential Oils. And it's literally the 101 guide. And not only does it teach you like the top oils and what to look out for and, you know, best practices on how to use them, but also you make over your medicine cabinet, you make over your cleaning cabinet, you make over your personal care cabinet, self-care rituals, and even hormone recommendations as well. So it's kind of like that full home makeover with all these incredible do-it-yourself recipes. So the first thing you got to look out for is the quality of the oils that you're using, because there's a lot of oils on the market that are not high quality, just like a lot of supplements are not high quality. A lot of anything, there's a lot of not high quality anything on the market, let's be honest, even medicine, right? And so being really mindful about what you're taking. And the first way to do that is to go and investigate the company and check and see if the company, are they disclosing information about their growers? Do they know anything about their growers, right? Because these oils were plants and they were a lot of plant. It takes a lot of plant to make an essential oil. And so really looking into how are these plants being harvested? Where are they being grown? Like, are they even talking about the kind of relationships that they have with their growers? Or they're not telling you anything at all. Like they don't tell you nothing about where those oils come from. The next thing you want to look for is purification. How are they testing these oils to ensure that they're pure? And as a biochemist, I used to work in the lab, and I would purify DNA, I would purify proteins, and a lot of the same techniques that you would use in those practices in the lab are used in essential oil purification. And so you're looking at gas chromatography and mass spectrometry, you're looking at isotope testing, you're looking at chirality testing. And again, they need to be disclosing that information. And it's just like an organic food farm company. Like if you're doing organic, like if you're willing to meet those standards, best believe you are letting everybody know that you're doing it. Like you're not going to be an organic farmer and not put organic on your produce, right? You're spending the money, you're doing the work, you're going to put the label on. Same thing with a great essential oil company. If they are spending the money on massive quality control, they are going to let you know that they're doing that. So it's really important, and they should let you know that out the gate. Like that's one of the first things that they're letting you know is that they are testing these oils and they are running these battery of tests on every single batch of oils. And if it's a really great company, they even have a lot number on that bottle, and you can actually run that lot number on their site and pull up the specs on that oil to ensure that it's as pure as they say it is. That's again, there's a very few companies that are able to do that, but that definitely exists, and it really shows the level of transparency that you're working with a good product. The other way to know is if people are using that particular oil and they're getting the results that they want, right? The proof is in the pudding. Like if I'm using a digestive blend, well, it better help with my digestion. If I'm using a menstrual blend, it better help my menstrual cramps. If I'm using a blend for headaches and neck tension, well, it better help me get rid of those things. You know what I'm saying? And so, so often, you know, if you are having those results, then you've got a good oil on your hands.
And so I just thought of something. This may be a silly question, but how do you smell it? Do you eat it? I don't know.
There are 3 ways to use essential oils. So aromatic, and for aromatic, you're looking at boosting the respiratory system, boosting the immune system. Again, we have olfactory receptors in a lot of parts of our body, but most importantly, our lungs and our brain. Brain fog, emotional well-being, reducing stress levels, reducing anxiety, reducing sad feelings, focus, concentration. All of that can be inspired through breathing oils in aromatically. Also, when you breathe them in, not only do they go straight to the brain, to the amygdala and the limbic brain, that's why they're so profound at balancing hormones and balancing emotional traumas and cognitive function. But also, when you breathe them in, they go to the lungs, they go through the alveoli, and they are now in the system. So the fastest way to get essential oils systemic into the body is by breathing them in. And that's why it's so important to recognize that like a Glade plug-in or even like a really nasty scented candle, that stuff is going into your lungs and it's going into your body. So, Swiffers, Glade plugins, like all that stuff just lights me up. Like I can't stand it. It gives me headaches because I know it's not only do I know it's a neurotoxin and I know it's a carcinogen, but my body does not like it. So that's the benefit of aromatic, but just recognize that anything that you're breathing in is going into your body systemically. It's the fastest path in there. Next is topical. And topical is what's great about topical is if you're treating a specific issue, like let's say you are having asthma or bronchitis, you can put oils on your chest and around the lungs. Let's say you've got acid reflux or you've got really bad stomach cramps, you can put oils around that area. So you're putting them on the area of concern. So an example, if you have menstrual cramps, you're going to put a blend over your uterus, not on your knee. You're going to make sure that you go to the path of least resistance. So for me, I told you I had those head traumas for many years ago that used to cause my migraines. Well, we're very delicate. My neck, although it's okay, it can easily be swayed in the wrong direction, and I can tweak it pretty easily. So I have a pillow, I've got body workers, acupuncturists, chiropractors, I got everybody working on it. But one of the things that I use is a blend of oils that if I do have a kink neck and my muscles are super tight, that blend melts my muscles in like 60 seconds or less. Like I could never live without that oil blend because it is the fastest path to relief that I have in my arsenal of anything that I've got. And so the blend's literally 3 feet away from me right now. Like it's all over the house because I don't even like to have to go search for it. So at any given time, we have about 4 of those bottles open at any time because I just like to be able to quickly reach and grab it. So that's just an example of topical application. And then the last one is internal. Now, internal, a little controversial. You gotta be really mindful and very specific about why you would use oils internally, because they do have to cross through the mucous membranes. They gotta cross through the digestive tract, and it's not the fastest way to get the oils into the system. But if you are dealing with a severe gut issue, or you are dealing with an immune system compromise issue, then oils internally can be beneficial. Also, oils under the tongue get into the bloodstream, into the brain faster. So like, let's say example is like copaiba. Copaiba is a really powerful endocannabinoid, but it has very different effects than like a CBD oil. But it's phenomenal for anxiousness, phenomenal for nerve pain, and phenomenal for pain in general. And so people will do that under the tongue to instantly quell an anxiety attack. So just an example of like leveraging oils like under the tongue or internally that can have a really fast impact on the body.
Wow. Okay, cool. So thanks for answering that, because I'm like, okay, I've seen them in like diffusers, right? And then I was like, yeah. But then I've also seen them topical. So I'm like, I wasn't sure, but okay. So this is wonderful. And I'm going to link your books and everything, of course, in the episode notes so people can find that. But where can people connect with you?
Absolutely. So the best place that I love for people to connect is going to be Instagram. It's at Dr. Mariza, DrMariza. And then I have a podcast. It's called the Essentially You Podcast. And it's all about helping women become the CEO of their health. So it focuses on women's hormone health. We get into the nitty gritty. I'm talking about like the testing that you need, the symptoms to be looking out for, just really understand what's going on with your body so that you can navigate the medical system and navigate your healthcare. Because so often we are left in the dark about how to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all your work, for being this resource that is so profound, and I really appreciate it. And I can assume that so many other people have benefited from you, from your resources, your podcast, your books, everything that you do. So thank you so much, Mariza, for coming on the show. And I ask this of everyone: what makes you your most lit up self?
What makes me, I would say my mission. My mission to inspire women to feel like they're the CEO of their health, providing that information, helping women around the world, whether it's helping to end period poverty, helping for women to just feel like they are empowered in their own health mission. I would say that that lights me up more than anything. It's the driver of why I get up every single day.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Thank you again.